And so now I'm joined with the team from Sona. We have Dom here, one of the co-founders, as well as Ahmed, who's the CTO of Sona. Welcome to this AMA session here. Would you kindly introduce yourselves?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Dom. I'm CEO and founder of Sona, as you said. My background is 20 years in product development across a range of areas, particularly in fintech, big data. More recently, that's been pretty much exclusively focused on Web3 for the last 3.5 years.
Hi, my name is Ahmad. I'm a software engineer. I have 15 years experience in software engineering. And since 2016, I have been working on the blockchain projects, from the blockchain core projects, experience with the couple of companies that work with the core blockchains and the companies that mainly work as a crypto exchanges and the security companies. I just joined Sona about 1 year ago as a CTO, and with Dom and the other guys in the Sona team, we built up a team, engineering team and product team, and we kick-started the project.
Okay, do you mind if I digress just a little bit? I'm just interested personally. When you've been in software for a number of years, and blockchain, of course, is a relatively new area. So how much of a transition does that involve when you're in software development? Like, you have to kind of relearn new languages, or is it just basically a new application of your existing knowledge and you just sort of adjust?
Okay, for me as a software engineer, the domain was totally different from the domain that I used to work. So when I joined the first blockchain startup in 2016, and we started from scratch to build up a new blockchain core. So I realized that there are huge amount of the new kind of knowledge that I need to learn. Just as an example, if you look at the blockchain by itself, it's a kind of new technology, or it was kind of new technology at that time. So the concept of the decentralization and the consensus mechanism, proof of work, proof of stake, and all these basics. I also just want to mention work as a security auditor, part of a team that we audited the Dogecoin for Binance.
Wow, it's a huge area. Well, let's go jumping straight into Sona now. I'll just say from the start that I'm quite a fan, having just sort of dipped my toes into learning a little bit about Sona as a concept. And I really feel like it responds to a genuine need that the world has in evolution to do with learning and knowledge. And so could you give the Sona elevator pitch, Dom? Like, what is it in a few short sentences? What is the main selling point of Sona?
Sure. Okay. Right, so I'm going to break this into three parts. So three elevators. Our mission and our belief in how we want to value is to tokenize the mind. We don't think anyone's really doing that, and there's a number of ways in which that will play out, which we can go into in more depth. But the sort of core elevator pitch is Sona is a gamified way to explore your cognition, build knowledge, and optimize your mental performance. So there's kind of three pillars there, if you like. But in terms of, I guess, sort of a slightly broader explanation, what we're trying to pioneer is a unique blend of edtech and blockchain by gamifying intelligence assessment and leveraging the blockchain to tokenize cognitive achievements through life. We believe that we can empower people, whatever their background, whatever the opportunities they've been given, with control over their cognitive data, and turn it into a valuable and tradable asset that they can leverage.
So I read that there's a personal story that lies behind some of the initial idea for Sona related to an uncle, right? Is it your uncle, Dom, or is it your?
It's one of our other team members, Steve. I'll try and recount it, as I've heard it many times. So his uncle was in the military and never really had any formal qualification, but was extremely skilled in various forms of optimization of equipment. And he developed a sort of innate natural talent for doing that. Then when he left the army, he found it very difficult to find opportunity because he didn't have formal qualifications and he had no means of demonstrating, or I guess sort of transporting those sort of innate abilities into other domains, if you like. So that kind of, I guess, that formed a bit of a background and a sort of a thought process that Steve had, and me and him talked about that quite a bit. And that's what sort of led us to develop the initial concept of mechanisms to prove your intelligence, particularly as compared to other people. So you could have, kind of head-to-head intelligence battles, if you like. At the point that started, I was working almost exclusively really in Web3 at that point, and realised there are two additional dimensions to it. Firstly, kind of mechanisms of reward and value accrual for people who participated in. Equally as importantly, a huge opportunity for identity. I think identity mechanisms are in most respects broken, particularly as they follow over into areas of things like education and professional performance.
Yeah, I remember quite some time ago reading an article, and it was trying to identify how you can actually measure intelligence. Because in the traditional sense, we measure intelligence from credentials, from where you've studied, what you've read, the exam scores you get. But actually, it's quite a flawed way of measuring intelligence, because someone may not be particularly brainy from the typical standpoint, but let's say that someone's just a genius at sports. The amount of calculations that are going on in your mind just to get the ball in the corner of the net if you're playing football or soccer, as the Americans say, that's advanced mathematics, at all sorts of levels. And they can do this in split seconds while they're trying to sort of gauge the setting and all the things that are going on. So to go and call someone who's a genius at sports kind of dumb because they don't score real great on exams, well, it's fundamentally flawed. And so to me, the idea of being able to validate people's intelligence in more than just what are test results is really amazing. And I think this is the challenge when they actually do the IQ test, right? Because it's not just about how many facts you can remember or whether you'll be able to win a spelling bee, but it's about whether you can process the situation you're in knowledgeably. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, broadly, I think I may have read the same article about the mathematics required to get the football in the back of the net as you did. It's a bit more nuanced than this, but in terms of the science, and we can go into more depth on that, because that's we're not developing Sona in the absence of very, very, very hard, well-structured science. There's two broad types of intelligence, and these are umbrellas really. But you've got crystallized intelligence, which generally represents knowledge. It's information that you have stored and are able to recall, and to a certain extent, sort of structure appropriately in a given situation. And then you've got fluid intelligence, which is your kind of raw smart, if you like, which is certainly more aligned with the example you just gave. But there's lots of other examples of what that means. But that's the fluid intelligence represents more of your capability and your ability to tackle new situations, new problems. There's a number of layers to that as well. We can come onto that in more depth, but you've got at the core of it, you've got cognitive function, which typically, certainly in the Western world, tends to be measured as IQ. And as a sort of another layer, you've got non-cognitive function. So examples of that would be things like executive function, memory, logic, problem solving. There's another layer around it which is being explored more, certainly around how to assess it and measure it, which tends to be labelled practical wisdom. And that's things like counterfactual thinking, emotional intelligence. And these are all things over time that we're going to wrap up into Sona as a platform and allow people to explore. When we're taking it step by step, we want to ensure that our approach from a cognitive science perspective and our approach from a UX perspective and our approach from content delivery, article game engine perspective are all well aligned and producing results that can stand up.
Yes, and I think the challenge is that people, they lose confidence, and then that means they lose out on opportunity because they feel like, oh, well, I didn't study, I don't have an education. But the fact of the matter is that everyone's got value and everyone has different forms of intelligence. Yeah. Even people who have learning difficulties have other ways which they can excel. And so if you can bring that out and you can document that, well, that's an amazing power. And so why don't you talk me through it a little bit, like in terms of Sona experientially, or how does it all play out? How do you sort of document intelligence in this way?
That's quite a big question. What I'm going to try and do is break it apart. So this is long term. This is a platform play. We're building a platform that we won't be the only people building applications and tools. We don't believe that we can provide something which is useful enough globally by being the sole creators of the experiences that sit on top of it. Broadly, it fits into four areas. You've got a kind of intelligence identity layer, rather, which manages the identity of users and the different achievements and facets of intelligence that they've demonstrated. There's a gaming layer which delivers both content and sort of interaction types to users across various experiences. And this is something which is more recent. Obviously, I'm sure everyone who's listening is aware of the kind of current hype cycle around AI tools, but we do see genuine huge opportunities in both sort of generative and predictive AI, not just in terms of content generation, but also in terms of a number of other things. But at the start, Sona will be represented in two main ways: Sona Dashboard, which is the web experience, and Sona Pocket, which is designed to be a more kind of dip in, dip out, typical sort of mobile gaming experience that you can spend 5 minutes on, you can spend an hour on, and there's going to be a variety of different gamified experiences on that. So I keep using the word gamification, but that's core to our thinking. And there's a number of core beliefs actually that we've got as an organisation that are driving that. I'll go into them now because I think it provides some context, and this probably answers the question about how we're potentially disrupting education, knowledge, and learning. So the four key beliefs are: we believe work, learning, and play are becoming irretrievably intertwined. And I think there's very clear early trends towards that. But we don't believe that there's a core platform at the moment that can deliver a compelling experience across all different environments. The second belief is that you've already alluded to, and we discussed a moment ago, is that education is fairly one-dimensional. It focuses on crystallized intelligence, whereas fluid intelligence evolves over a lifetime, and it's really the key marker of ability. That's not to say crystallized intelligence is wrong, or traditional academic qualifications are wrong. They are of value, but we believe there's a better way, and learning and so on is going to become more modular over the next few years. The third one is digital identity is a critical part of the future of both learning and work. There isn't a recognized kind of identity mechanism that allows people to navigate a world like this. And the fourth one is probably the simplest: is you can ask someone, if you say to someone how smart are you, they typically can't give an answer to that. Nowadays you can tell people your resting heart rate, how many steps you've taken a day, fairly straightforwardly, but we don't have the equivalent for the mind. We see there's a huge opportunity there. The first version of the app, the first version of the platform, Sona Pocket, is a really nice, very fluid mobile experience. So you can onboard into the app, you register, and within there's a number of different zones that you can unlock as you play. And the zones, think of them as sort of gameplay containers. So a zone can contain a certain form of play, a certain progression mechanism, a certain area, say, of cognitive testing. It could be solo, it could be a head-to-head thing with a leaderboard, or it could be a tournament where 1,000 people can all compete for a prize. And in terms of the types of testing experiences that we're going to see first, the breakdown of intelligence I discussed before, certainly as it's commonly recognised, is we're focusing on IQ initially in the main. Partly because it's a more known science, and we've been able to more rapidly create game formats that are valid as scientific tests of cognition. I mean, on that front, it's worth mentioning that one of the core parts of our team is a group of cognitive science researchers out of Oxford University and King's College London. They've proven in peer-reviewed journals that their approach to gamified cognitive testing will stand up to a 2-hour Mensa IQ test. Their approach is what we've kind of baked into the Sona platform in terms of content and the game engine, because we don't. There's no point doing this if we can't do it in a way that is provably, demonstrably valid. The second part is Sona Dashboard, which will be more an area where users can access exclusive content, be token gated with the main Sona NFT. You'll be able to access Sona Network, which are contacts and people who you can network with. There'll be various types of learning resources and access to partner content on there, and also some access to a kind of one-stop shop, if you like, for certain AI tools that can help people in their sort of day-to-day work. So some of those will be through partnerships, some of them will be custom open source models.
Awesome. Just dialing it back a little bit in terms of the Sona Pocket experience. From what I can tell, so basically what it is it's really built off an NFT, and it's your own personal intelligence NFT. So you're storing your abilities, your knowledge, and your performance in the game in this NFT. Is that right?
Yes. Broadly, that's correct. Think of the NFT more as a kind of the term we've used in the past is like cognitive passport. So it's an abstract visual representation of the data you create as you interact. So we want that to be beautiful and almost like a kind of Tamagotchi that people want to sort of nurture and come back to and interact with. So they feel it's part of them. But the data you create isn't stored within the NFT. The NFT is a means to validate the data that you've created, including by third parties, if you want to share some or all of that data. And it's also part of a sort of decentralized identity mechanism, which Ahmad can provide a far clearer sort of technical explanation.
Yeah, so we have different kind of NFTs here. We have a NFT as a collective of prize in a game. So, and I'm not talking about those kind of standard NFTs. I want to talk about the Sona cognitive passport or Sona identity token. So yeah, maybe we can call it NFT, but I should be a little bit cautious because I want to go a little bit more than NFT and call it some sort of soul-bound token because it represents the user's activity and reputation of the user in the Sona platform. So the way that we collect data is quite secure at first, and I guess it's a kind of unique approach for a mobile application and a platform in this level. So as you mentioned, this NFT or this token represents the reputation of the user in the Sona and represents the cognitive abilities and some other kind of information. But all those information are encrypted. All the information are kept in the user's device. So we don't keep any information, this kind of sensitive information from the user. We keep most of the information in the user's device. For example, Sona is not just a game. We are gamifying the cognitive abilities, but at the end, there are some functionalities and some use cases in the real world for this Sona identity token or Sona cognitive passport. So for example, if you want to send it to a recruiter or a company to show your level of the cognitive abilities or how intelligent you are, since we have this mechanism of decentralized identity. So using this technology, any institution can verify the information of the user and this cognitive passport. We are talking about the decentralized identity, means that you can offer it without any centralized institution.
That's awesome. So how do you plan to roll this out in terms of layers and levels of intelligence?
Our focus at the start is to look at cognitive function and non-cognitive function. So that's basically IQ, and then things that are complementary and sort of sit around that, like executive function, memory, logic, problem solving, through very simple gamified tests, which will have very simple formats. So, for example, on Sona Pocket, it will take somewhere between 1 and 5 minutes, depending on the type of game that you're playing. And it's deliberately designed to be like that because if we design initially for that sort of casual user experience, if you like, it enables us to get a greater sort of breadth of testing and understanding of what's working. Within that start, there will be a breadth of different sort of elements of that experience, like solo play and head-to-head play. We've got a number of partnerships with companies either already agreed or just sort of in finalizing, but they'll be in areas like recruitment, where we can provide custom tests to users, say, based on a particular area of proficiency. And this is where we kind of get into a blend of cognitive testing and learning. There may be customized problems that are very specific to, say, getting a certain form of job. And down the line, we've got various monetization mechanisms around recruiters being able to push custom tests to groups of Sona users based on their intelligence profile.
I did notice in the little demo that I saw that there are some partnership type of scenarios, like with brands and so on. So you'll have branded tests and so on.
So we'll have, so there'll be partnerships in a few areas. So there'll be brands, and that'll be more, certainly in the early days, geared towards rewards. So there may be, say, NFT collections. So we offer, there may be some things that are a little bit more like a kind of brand sponsorship, but still providing some value to users. We're in discussions at the moment with some people in education who will be able to provide custom knowledge and learning materials rather than cognitive testing. In terms of accruing a body of knowledge that we can use to test people on, that in the early days at least is going to be much more user driven. So if you imagine it, as an individual, you state what your objectives are. So simple example, you onboard onto the Sona app, Sona ecosystem, and you say, I'm from here, I haven't got formal education, I want to be a JavaScript developer in 12 months. And based on what you access on the internet and based on a wider kind of corpus of knowledge, the system will create tests that are designed to reinforce knowledge in those sort of specialist areas. And the intention is we'll use some generative machine learning models to create, I guess, a simple, if you want to sort of visualize it, like flashcard type methods of sort of exploring that information and reinforcing it through gamification. There's a longer term thing here, and I don't want to go into depth on it because it's not going to form part of the initial product release, but it probably gives us an idea of, the fact that we're thinking long term. So even if you imagine we've got 1 million users, all of those users interacting with the system, particularly with knowledge, are actually labeling data. So there's a whole separate opportunity for value creation for users there, we believe, and that they'll have a tokenized right over the kind of total data set and machine learning model that's been used to do that.
Interesting. It's definitely expansive and almost infinite in terms of where this could go. Maybe we should sort of narrow things down a little bit in terms of the business side of this. This is a bit of a loaded question because MetFi, as a community, as a DAO, is an investor in Sona. Of course, there's a lot of enthusiasm there as to the potential of this, how it will grow, how that will grow the value of the treasury of the MetFiDAO in itself. So I know that this is a key thing that the whole MetFi community is very interested in. So could you expound on that, please?
Yeah, there's a number of layers to the token economy. We are going to do another round of work on it in the next month or two, just to kind of validate any ways in which our product vision has evolved and make sure it still works. But broadly, it's going to remain. So there's 3 elements to it. There's the core token economy, and that's built on top of NFT forging, the creation of Sona NFTs, but also upgrading them. You could think of that as analogous to, say, you're buying a battle pass in Fortnite, say a 3-month subscription that gives you access to a greater level of utility or features or content. There's liquidity pool, which is protocol owned liquidity, and then there's swaps between the in-game currencies, tokens if you like, which aren't on-chain, and then our native token. So there'll be a small swap fee there. So that's kind of the core token economy, and that'll obviously bring funds into the treasury. The second area is the marketplace, and that's not a one-sided marketplace in the sense that we're just selling things to users. It'll be it's a decentralized NFT marketplace where users can also sell in-game assets that they've created as well. There'll be a small royalty there, and that any royalty fees that are paid there will flow into the treasury vault. But we've also got a buyback and burn mechanic built in there to ensure we raise buy pressure on our native token from NFT sales, and we've got a deflationary economy as well. Then the third area, which is the area we're going to focus on more again in the next month or two, is on-demand services. So if you can think of those more like some business-to-business services, so where partners want to integrate with the Sona platform, say provide education and training, to build their own applications on top of the Sona ecosystem, to do things like, we are thinking about things as straightforward as advertising, although we've got a native advertising format where a brand could own a zone and communicate with users and invite them to their community through that, and provide some custom gameplay and something. And then we've got some almost like custom collectibles that are called fragments, where users can collect sort of almost like pieces of a larger prize and then forge them into a larger one. So the on-demand services is being worked on, but broadly we think it's correct. We did early on do a huge amount of token economy modeling and simulation. So we've got a simulation model that has been run several thousand times with different variables in to validate the fact that our token economy is sustainable. And that's with a partner called Nodenomics, who are very well known. They've worked on a large number of play-to-earn economies, amongst other things. Just in reference to this, while we're on the subject matter of tokenomics, when the MetFi community agreed to invest in Sona, our intention was to launch on the near ecosystem. That's no longer the case. We're now going to launch our core Sona identity token NFTs, probably on Ethereum, and then we'll also integrate a scaling solution for the high sort of throughput transaction stuff like gameplay. That's possibly Polygon, possibly one of the newer sort of ZK rollups.
Okay, so essentially what the MetFi treasury got in exchange for this investment was tokens, right? An early seed round or the right to... You haven't actually had a token generating event yet, right?
No, we haven't. That kind of brings us onto roadmap to a point. So our work over the last couple of months has been trying to just extend our runway. It's been as I'm sure everyone knows, it's been a tiring fundraising environment right now.
Yes.
So we're trying to just finish off. I mean, since MetFi invested, we've raised some more funds from another VC and a couple of angel investors. We've still got some left in our seed round. We want to close that soon. Also, our private round, try and fill that over the next couple of months, and we've got some good conversations going on. But from a roadmap perspective, we made the call to focus on engineering and product team rather than marketing and community. I think we made some missteps there on the community front and communication, which we'll rectify in the next couple of weeks. I think timing is going to be critical. So we're trying to raise another chunk of capital. We can keep developing for another couple of months right now. Our view of the market cycle is probably it's going to be very late this year or very early next year when the next kind of cycle kicks in. And timing is going to be critical in terms of our token launch. So I think expectation-wise, I'd be looking at January, February, probably. So I think that obviously the Bitcoin halving is probably going to have an impact on the timing of that. Typically, it's like change 4 or 5 months before. We'll see what happens with the ETF decisions in the US in August, I think, and whether that kind of accelerates things. So if we split it into quarters, we're at the start of July now. Q3 2023, we've got some redesign work to do just to add the additional kind of product thinking enhancements into the mobile app and web platform. Then we're going to do a soft launch with our community, and that'll be a selected group of community members through Q4 2023. And then the goal is to do the full launch early next year. It's worth saying, even though we've got some capital to raise this year, we've been in talks with a new Launchpad, which is doing some really innovative things, which is the Launchpad's launching in January. So we're going to raise at our point of going to market in full release. We're going to raise another $500,000. So hopefully that gives you an idea what we're trying to do. So with the full launch, obviously, we want to get it to market with a larger number of core users. Probably to the middle of next year, it's going to be about iteration, getting market fit, ensuring that the experience is right before we look to scale it. Because I've launched enough tech products in my life to know that if you try and scale before you've got market fit, then it just doesn't work. And I think you see that a lot in the Web3 space, that the product management and the product the go-to-market approach of the product often isn't well thought through enough. Yeah. So one thing we were going to do is we were intending to do a sort of initial NFT mint, and we're just weighing that up at the moment as to whether we do that this year. I mean, the NFT market isn't in great shape. I think there's probably been a healthy correction that actually might drive the next sort of cycle of NFTs harder. We're going to see some evolution there in utility. So hopefully that gives you a kind of overview of what the next 6 to 9 months looks like.
Ahmed, maybe you can fill in a little bit more detail in terms of the product side of things. So we've seen there's the Pocket thing, but then there's also the web-based app. So where are we at in development in those two sort of main areas?
For now, we don't have a web-based app. We just our focus is on the mobile application. Every developer knows that it's just the mobile application is just the front end of the system. So we have a huge of the backends and services, since we are using the microservice architecture for our backend. So we have implemented a couple of services, and we utilize the cutting edge kind of technologies for our design and in the technical sides for the backends and even the front end. So we have a marketplace as well. So users can trade the collectives and the NFTs in the marketplace. So it's almost, I can say we had like 70% to 80% progress on our marketplace, Sona marketplace, that is purely web-based. And we also had good progress on the mobile application and the relevant services. We already finished the single solo play with the content management service and everything. And we also working on the battle or tournament service. So it's already done in the backend, and in mobile app also is almost done. So these two, I guess, as you saw in the prototype. But just one thing, the prototype code and everything, even the backend of the prototype is totally different from the production. So it doesn't represent our production. Yeah, maybe look and feel, yeah, but from the technology and everything that we use for production is totally different. The code base and everything is different. Of course, we had huge amount of tasks to do, but with our current resources, I'm very satisfied with our progress and our achievements till now. For now, we have a mobile application, and also the on-chain data. We already have our NFTs and the other smart contracts deployed on the testnet, and even on the mainnet we have some smart contracts now. So all these services, like on-chain services that we already implemented before we work with the near blockchain, now is totally EVM based, as Dom mentioned. Most probably our first target for the Sona cognitive passport is the Ethereum, but for the other on-chain stuff we might go for the layer 2 networks because of the transaction costs and speed. So maybe Polygon. I can say NFT wise, almost finished our smart contracts on chains, but there are some tests and some services that we need to implement for our security and decentralized identity approach.
So the NFT aspect of this, you were saying that there's going to be a marketplace where users can actually trade NFTs. So what's the value creation in the gameplay process? It must not be entirely personalized to the individual then in terms of the NFT. That's more like a game item sort of thing. How does it work?
The core NFT, we call it, from a technical perspective, we refer to it as the Sona identity token. But yeah, from a public perspective, we'll just call it the Sona. So the Sona is the kind of core object. So once users mint their Sona, it's non-transferable. So they can't to anyone else. And you could think of it almost as that kind of, almost like a seed, or something that's empty, and as they play, the data that they create will algorithmically change the visual design of that, so that they can't sell that item. Alongside
it's tied to you, right? It's your soul or something. You were saying you're using this terminology.
Alongside that, there'll be a number of other badges and kind of achievement rewards that you can get. Say I'm the strongest in spatial awareness in Berlin. Also, something along that. So that's a silly example, but that's the kind of stuff that they'll be designed to represent, and they won't be transferable either, because obviously that's something that you've proven you can do. There'll be components of your, I guess, your on-chain cognitive identity, if you like, that you'll always sort of take with you and can prove that you've done. Alongside that, there'll be a number of other assets within the game. There'll be a number of there'll be very straightforward NFT prizes. There'll be reward partners, which may not offer things that are digital, but those real life experiences or opportunities, say, or content will be represented by a digital asset. So they'll be tied to you could think of it like an NFT coupon. So users, if they win one of those but they don't want to do it, then they can trade those within the marketplace as well. And then there'll be a number of power-ups is kind of the term we're using for them, which will enable you to increase your abilities or your access levels to different types of content and so on. And they'll be items for sale in a relatively familiar kind of sort of premium mobile game sense.
Can we digress? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The only thing I was going to add to it is that obviously there's our native token as well. So as users build up in-game currencies, of which there's two, there's actually three, but one's energy, and then there's two other internal game currencies, and users will also be able to cash those out to the native token.
So in the game, it's called Neuron.
The labels, there's energy, and then there's axons and neurons, which are the two in-game currencies, and they're different tiers. Which is, for anyone who plays premium games, that's quite familiar. You've got a kind of a basic currency and a premium currency that are accrued and depleted in slightly different ways. And then our native token it's been called Neuro, but we're probably going to change the ticker name of that just because it's slightly confusing with neurons in the game. Yeah.
So that's a different thing. That's kind of like a utility token.
Yeah, that's probably going to end up being called Sona. Yeah, it's a utility token primarily. I mean, there is a longer term plan to decentralize the organization into a DAO. Some of that will start quite quickly. There's a component of Sona called Sona Foundation, which is designed to sort of create opportunity for people who have less of it, and that will be a DAO.
So in principle, the native tokens that MetFi holds in the treasury, or has the right to, those would then potentially be part of that DAO structure. Correct. Then.
Yeah. We're working through some of the sort of the voting right mechanisms and the structure of the DAO and how that's going to work and how it's going to evolve over time, which we will share in due course. So that's certainly part of it. Obviously, there's a number of value accrual mechanisms for the token as well, as we've discussed.
Really, this is our ultimate goal towards the being a DAO.
So a community-owned protocol in a sense.
Absolutely. We think it needs to be ultimately ready to sort of fully achieve the kind of core beliefs and vision that we've got. Yeah, it should be. If there's an identity mechanism which is fundamental enough to sort of be about the mind, then it shouldn't be owned by a small group of people.
We probably have a bit of limited time now, but I would like to just quickly touch on the community aspect of this in terms of, okay, presumably you've got a group of people who have tried this or you're growing a community or what's that aspect of Sona at this point in the roadmap?
Yeah, we did some initial community work and that was late last year. We were active on Twitter and we did an initial launch of Discord. At that point, we were aligned with NEAR. And then when we got to sort of early this year, it became apparent that the fundraising market wasn't great, to say the least. Given the product had grown slightly in sophistication and what we wanted to achieve with it, and we believed that was going to create greater long-term value, we took the decision to focus our runway funds on product development, engineering, and ensure that we could continue on that front rather than put that at risk by spending on the community. That said, I think we did make some missteps. I think we could have communicated slightly better, certainly in Discord. But the intention where we are now is that we've got a small group of people, a couple of volunteers, and one person who's going to be paid, who are going to do an initial sort of community reboot. And that's on the 17th of July. This month, and that'll start quite simply, but there's a well-structured communications plan that's going to sit behind that, just to ensure that everyone's kind of clear on where the project is. We're still here, we're building hard, and communicate a lot of the stuff that we've discussed today. There's a new website that's launching at the same time, which I think will give a much clearer view of our vision than the old one did. And then between now and the next sort of 3-6 months, the progression of things like announcements of partnerships and product development, and we're wanting community members to get actively involved in testing certain things, validation of user interface, doing sort of early play testing of alpha, beta versions, particularly mobile products. So that's what that's going to look like. So the approach is going to be, as I say, it will build up. I mean, we did do some work at the beginning of this year on a bigger, probably more ambitious marketing plan that was much more built around lore and storytelling, which we'd still quite like to roll out. And I won't give the details away now because but I think we've held off on the decision on that front because it's the idea is that build up to a big enough team and we're not really sure the market's quite right for doing that. I mean, that's something that'd be great to get your community members' view on. We'd happily share some of the details of what that approach to marketing looked like because it's really cool. I think very, very different to what anyone else is doing, and it tells a story that almost wraps up the Sona mission in lore, and then there's got a sort of product reveal at the end of it.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I think we're interested to see how this all plays out. The prototype that I saw is very functional and quite interesting. It gives you a good idea of what this is going to look like and how it's going to roll out and develop and so on. It's got some front end. Most of the regular communities are very front end oriented. So I understand that it's a huge challenge in the back end side, as Ahmed must be feeling fully.
Yeah, and the next version of the front end user interface is 10 times as slick. Everyone will be very impressed.
Amazing. Well, do you have anything else you want to add on at this point?
No, I think it feels like we've covered quite a bit. Everyone, it'd be great if your community could join our Discord on the 17th. We'll drop a message into your Discord or send some links to you once we relaunch. Yeah, we'll be starting to do some regular AMAs and Twitter Spaces as well over the coming weeks. So and be super happy to come and do an AMA in the MetFi Discord.
Do you have anything else you want to say to the MetFi community?
I think just thanks for supporting us. You are our biggest investor. Apologies if some of our communication over the last few months hasn't been as strong as it could have been. But we hugely appreciate your support and really want your interaction and help as we start to bring this to market.
Thanks. Ahmed, do you have anything to add?
No, just again, thank you so much for giving up this opportunity for this interview. And as Nam said, we would be happy to have the another sessions, the community or you.
Awesome. Appreciate that very much. Thank you so much, guys, for taking your time and for the amazing project that you're bringing to the market and to the Web3 space, and wish you all the best of success and that this comes to us very soon. Thanks, guys.
Great to speak to you.
Yeah,
really
thank you.